yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to In Honor Of, a show for veterans, about veterans and their families, and by veterans. Now, before we get into the regular programming today, this is Vietnam Remembrance Month that's been up, and I want to thank our borough president because he's pulled all the stops out, and he's got a program where he's going to be talking with Vietnam veterans, helping Vietnam veterans, and doing everything in his power. And our borough president, Jimmy Otto, has done a great job for the veterans. Also, I want to thank my friend Joel Bibula. He brought this from his archives, which is showing Vietnam veterans. Now, back to the programming that we're talking about today. This is Women in History Month. Did I get it right, Mary?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Okay. And I'm going to have Paul Dietrich, my co-host, introduce all of our guests. But before we start, ladies, I want to thank you for your service. Okay.
Thank you.
And very, very meaningful to me and to everyone, actually. Paul, would you take...
Certainly. I'd like to introduce first to my right, Miss Ann Treadaway. Ann is an Army veteran, served in Iraq. Next to her in the middle, we have Miss Jessica Ostroska. She is a Marine vet who served in Afghanistan. And then furthest away from me on my right, we have Miss Mary McLoone. See, I got it right. And she is a Vietnam vet who served in Vietnam. And again, several different wars, but again, the service is what's important, not the war. And the fact that we have women veterans out there who have served in conflicts along with men for years. And today we're here to talk about that. Okay.
Mary, tell us a little bit about your background when you served.
Well, I was in the Army Nurse Corps. I served my year in Vietnam, actually 11 months and 25 days, but who counted? And it was my privilege and honor to care for the troops, the wounded, those who were sick from many other reasons, and I had the privilege of also working with probably the best doctors and nurses that I'll ever, experience again. But it was a year that I'll never forget, and if I had to do it over again, I would do it all over. And I stayed in nursing. Actually, my first job out of the Army was the Brooklyn VA Hospital, because I wanted to continue working with and for the veterans. And after 40 years, I hung up my shingle. So now I just work with the veteran organizations.
You never hung up your shingle because you're still very active, and you advocate for veterans all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been friends for a very long time, and I can't remember a time when you weren't in there pitching for veterans.
Absolutely. Well,
no matter what war, no matter what period of time.
Yeah. Well, we have to stick together to, number one, take care of each other, and to support each other, because it's very, very important. And regardless of what war we served in, doesn't matter. We're all veterans. And we're all very proud to be veterans.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your service.
I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I was in for 9 years. Actually, it's my 1-year anniversary this month of being out of the Marine Corps and in New York City. I was a public affairs Marine, so it was my job to help tell the Marine Corps story, which I was very honored to get to have that role and responsibility. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2014 and got to help tell that story of, what we were doing there, working with the Afghan National Army, and the things that we were setting up and building in the country to make better for those people. And now I'm out, 9-year vet, going to school using my post 9/11 GI Bill.
Excellent.
And I love it, and I was actually able to pull credits from my service in the Marine Corps that carried over to the degree that I'm going for my bachelor's in business. Single mom.
Life experience credits, right?
Yes, life experience, it's important. And
Very, yeah.
single mom and getting ready to open up a business now. So staying busy and working with the New York
Good
City
luck.
Veterans Alliance, trying to help out vets more.
Okay.
And how are you? Number one, congratulations on the twins. They're beautiful. They're adorable
beautiful.
children.
Thank you. If I fall asleep at any point here.
I'll just nudge you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your time.
Sure. I was in the Army for 5 years, 2 years reserves, 3 years active duty. I joined actually before September 11th, 2001. I graduated basic training 2 days after 9/11. So my whole belief or what the military was going to be for me changed very, very abruptly. I got out in 2006, so I've been out for quite a bit. But right after I got out, I went straight to college. I used the GI Bill to finish my bachelor's degree, and was fortunately had a little left over, and went on to get a graduate degree. Unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of life credit for my service because I was just a carpentry masonry specialist. So I got gym. I got that physical fitness credit at university. And now, or actually for the last 7 years, I've been working with veterans who, like me, go back to school to use the GI Bill. So right now I'm the director of the Office of Veteran and Military Programs and Services. I'm sorry, twins. I swear, like daycare is killing me.
They do that, yes.
Germ warfare.
They share everything.
I'm the director of the Office of Veteran and Military Programs and Services for Rutgers University.
Right, and you used to be here on Staten Island for CSI, right?
Yes, I used to be the director at Staten Island.
The last time you visited us, that's what you were.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I hear a common theme here. Very positive experience is what I'm hearing from the veteran service. My experience also was positive. I used my military to get my master's degree. Education degrees, things like that, very important. And that gives an opportunity. I know many of my soldiers, a lot of my soldiers came from Western Pennsylvania. It was very difficult for them to get any degrees, both male or female, didn't matter, without having some kind of military service. So that's why a lot of them were in. Very important. If you are a veteran and you have not used your benefits, you're wasting it. You really are wasting it, and I strongly encourage you to go back to school, get a degree, and try to advance yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Interestingly, actually, women more than men utilize the GI Bill to go back to school. I mean, we only make up currently about 17% of the armed forces, but for the GI Bill purposes, women usually are a quarter, 25% of who's actually using the benefit.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
That's good. That's
Okay,
good.
that's a sad thing that it's not being used to this max by everybody. I mean, you've got it there, and
you earned it.
you earned it, exactly. That's I used it,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I'm Vietnam, but I use it to the max, and it was a great thing. I probably would have never done it had I not had the VA benefits.
I don't think I would have gotten my master's without the Army.
So. In Afghanistan, did you have any difficulty dealing with the people over there because you're a woman?
I would say a little bit, in the sense that they're not used to, the Afghan people aren't used to their women serving like we do here in
Right.
America. So when we would go over to the Afghan base, us being females, being pretty females, not having to cover our hair, when we would go on base, like, look, we had our male counterparts that were there to like watch out for us, but the Afghan soldiers would want to get real close to us and want to have pictures taken with us or be very upright, up close, like shoulder to shoulder next to us, not understanding that like personal bubble space.
Right.
And it was more like it was kind of like the cool thing at the circus for them to see, because it's not what they're used to and not what is their custom.
Okay.
So it's not that I ever felt like unsafe, but it was just a little awkward and kind of uncomfortable when they want to be like so close. But it was really interesting. It was a very interesting experience, and getting to work, we actually got to work with the Afghan National Army. I got to help train their public affairs team, and that was really cool because we got to, through our linguist, explain to them like the women's role in the military and how smooth that is with working with men, and that it's not female or male, we're just service members. We're, soldiers or Marines or sailors or airmen, and one mission, we're all doing it together with, leaving the sex out of it. We're just here to do our mission. So it was cool to get to try to educate them on that, in hopes that maybe one day they'll be able to let women serve with them.
Then I take it that once you got away from them and you went back to the base, your customs were pretty much along the line of what would have been here in the United States, and the local custom of the Afghani people didn't impact your everyday life.
No, not at all. And even when we were on their base, we didn't have to cover our hair up with a scarf or anything, because we were over there working, and because I wasn't the first female that they had ever encountered that was a U.S. service member. They'd seen them, but they just were outnumbered at the end of the day. Female service members were, we're the few, the proud, as we say, in the Marine Corps. So for female Marines, we say we're the few, the prouder. So we're definitely, scarce. But it's, luckily we didn't have to do that. But it's just, it didn't really impact anything. We still able to do our jobs and be effective. How
about you, Ann? How was it in Iraq? Was it different than Afghanistan, or pretty much the same?
Oh, similar in the experience that I, as a carpenter mason, I did work with some local nationals when they would bring log runs, like supplies that we might be using. But what I actually was thinking of when you mentioned that was, during those circumstances, men and women in the service perform the same function, at least in my unit, which women were very outnumbered compared to men.
Right.
Carpenters, I was in an engineer combat unit.
Yep.
So even though women at the time I was in weren't officially allowed to be in combat roles, we were assigned to combat units and in combat. So when we went to Kuwait, and that's what made me think of it, since we weren't in conflict with Kuwait, when we had local nationals in Kuwait come onto the FOB to do any work, women weren't allowed to guard them, because it was culturally unacceptable. And since we were there, invited by Kuwait to kind of be stationed there, right, we weren't going to ruffle any feathers. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I was actually pretty happy about that, because I never ended up having to pull any guard duty in Kuwait. But so that's the only time I saw a difference as far as but I was never treated any differently as far as by the local nationals. So
I did see differences in Iraq with the acceptance of some women soldiers at the higher levels, and it was, their culture just does not see women in levels of authority, so it is difficult for them to relate to them. So sometimes we had to, at the levels I was dealing with, we had to send a man, whether he was in charge or not, because you had to make the statement that this is what's going to happen, and they may not listen as well as they would listen to the man. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but I did see that, and there were, I'd say maybe one or two, I was there 2 years, so one or two times that I saw that, and we knew that it was going to happen, so we accommodated it and worked around it so that we were able to get the message across. But it is a different culture, and you have to work with the culture you have. The other thing I mentioned was that I noticed that culture has very few people in the middle. It's older people and younger people, and most of the middle people are dead or out of the country. So again, you're dealing with very older people who tend to be more set in their ways, or the very young, and both of those can give you issues.
Mary, when you were in Vietnam, cultural difference, I mean, did you encounter similar to Afghanistan and Iraq, or is it any different?
No, I had a different experience being a nurse. We were on duty 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, so you were dealing primarily with, number one, your patients, and then the medical teams. That was it. The few times that we actually left the campus and go downtown, Saigon or whatever, I didn't really feel any different, because we were always in a group. We never traveled by ourselves.
Right.
We weren't allowed to travel by ourselves. But you were partially fearful, because you actually didn't know when you left the campus who was your friend and who was your foe.
Same way now.
Because they all look the same way, you know.
way
And
now.
you know, like Mama San could be, you know, bringing you cream and French bread in the morning, and then she may be wearing black pajamas later on that night. You don't know. But culturally, I actually didn't really feel like there was major differences. Because I happened to be stationed at 3rd Field Hospital in Saigon, and of course we had MACV headquarters there, so you had all your higher echelon right there, so it was a lot of Americans all over the place, and that's really who I actually spent most of my time with, but mostly with the patients.
Now, I was going to ask all three of you ladies the same question. Did you carry armament when you were... Weapons?
I was trained with a .45, but thank you, Jesus, I never had to use it.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay.
So as Marines, we are riflemen first, so we're trained very well with our weapons. So while I was in Afghanistan, I had my M9 and my M4 that I carried, but I didn't end up needing to use it. I did get some range time there on Afghanistan, but never had to engage.
Well, in my career in the service, I had been M249, SAW at one point, but when I deployed at the M16, and also I was a secondary gunner for the 50 cal.
Nice.
Yeah, but luckily, that's heavy. It's a very heavy second gunner. The second gunner just carries the barrels.
I got to fire one in Afghanistan. They're nice.
But fortunately as well, besides being shot at, you know, rules of engagement really dictate that you only shoot when you know, there's a target and you see that target. And I, though was in a combat support role, I, you know, never had to engage.
Thank God.
The both times, right.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that. You know, the both times I was over there carried, but did not ever have to discharge a weapon.
No. If you had to give a message to anybody watching, any young lady, young man watching about the military, what would your message be? So,
I mean, education is my focus, and it has been. You know, in my immediate family, my father is a Vietnam era veteran. My brother was in the Army and deployed after I went twice. Not to mention that, but older brother. And
little sister leading the way.
Yes, and he didn't use his GI Bill. And not only did he not use his GI Bill, he didn't transfer it, and he has 3 sons.
Oh.
So there's the
Foolish.
waste, right? My father, after Vietnam, didn't use his GI Bill. So out of the immediate family, I'm the only one who did. So my message would be, you earned this benefit. If you're not going to use it and you're still in and you have the capability of re-enlisting to transfer it, then transfer it to a dependent. If you transfer it, you can always take it back if you want to use it, but after you're out, you can't transfer it. So transfer it. I mean, if you're not going to use it. It's a re-enlistment tool, so, I mean, bear that in mind. But, you know, even if you're not planning on coming to Rutgers, I always say, give me a call. So I've done the show with you before, and I've definitely gotten calls from people. I am happy to answer any questions about education benefits or connect you with my peers at other institutions. Now, I'm at Rutgers, which is So Middlesex County is right next to Richmond County, but
Right.
I'm happy to answer any questions. But definitely, they say by 2020, 68% of jobs are going to require a college degree. So why not?
Jess, how about you? What message would you have for anybody watching?
I would say that at the end of the day, we're all veterans. We're all service members. We need to take care of each other, look out to each other. Your brother and sister to the left and right of you, in the service, out of the service, hold each other accountable, and make sure that, you help educate each other on the services that are available, and you're taking advantage of those, because just like education, there's so much stuff that we're earning with our service and sacrifice, and we have every right to take advantage of that and should.
Yeah, the key word there is earning.
Yes.
You have to remember you earned it. Yeah. Mary, how about you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to just say regarding education, I used my GI Bill because in those days you had like a 10-year period to use it. You use it or you lose it, so I used it, and it was very helpful for my bachelor's and then part of my master's. But being in the medical field, I have to encourage anyone, especially the nurses out there, if you want to have the experience of your life, go into the military. I've spoken with some nurses who have served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and
We're on the cutting edge.
It's amazing what has been done and is being done today versus when I was in, and that was 69, 70. I have the privilege of visiting Walter Reed Hospital every 6 weeks with one of the veteran organizations, and we have the opportunity to see what's going on there, and it is truly cutting edge. I mean, God forbid anyone gets injured or something, but I have to tell everyone, you can feel very secure that you're going to get the best of the best in the military. Training as well as care. And like I say, especially for the nurses out there, it's really one of the best experiences you'll ever get. A few of my friends stayed in the military, and they're retired for many years, and if they had to do it all over again, they would do it.
Yes. Would you ladies do it again?
Definitely.
In a wink.
Oh, yeah.
In a wink.
Yes.
Was it a New York
Love
second?
being
Is that
Marine.
right?
I could have avoided some of the, the deploy. I mean, like, who necessarily wants to deploy?
you.
No one really did, but that I could have avoided. But I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't been in the service.
Definitely.
So.
Okay.
It's been a great blessing.
I'm going to turn it over to Paul. You have a...
Yes. I'm going to read the what I have here for the ladies, but our local council member here would like to thank you ladies for coming on as veterans. He's very vet-oriented. In fact, he is the leader of the legislation right now that's before the City Council to try to get us credit for property ownership for our school tax portion of it. Right now that's stalled in the council, but he is the leader of that effort. I humbly write to express my gratitude to you and the veterans who you're honoring today, who have served in foreign wars. I'm proud and honored to live in a country where these women have served overseas during the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, and the Afghanistan War. I'm grateful to have the privilege to represent our community in New York City Council. I believe it is in large part due to their commitment to protect our liberty and justice. Each veteran has demonstrated patriotism and courage in their service to our country. Due to their bravery, we all possess the most precious gift of freedom. The contributions they've made for our country, off and on the battlefield, are undeniable. The veterans have made sacrifices on behalf of our nation that should never be forgotten. I pledge I'll continue to honor that legacy by doing all I can to ensure our veterans are remembered every year. So, I will pass these over to you ladies and then you can display them. But he has given us certificates for each of you. Would you pass that to Mary? Hopefully you spelled your names right. I've made a lot of efforts to that. Vivek?
Perfect.
Okay.
You didn't put LaMannna in. Oh.
Thank you.
And even though Kristen is not here.
Oh, I will definitely give her this.
Very nice.
She'll love it.
And for each of you ladies, there's his letter. He is very vet-friendly. I've met with him several times on the legislative agenda. So it's good to have people in the political arena that are on your side.
It is.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Steve, what a nice man.
Now, I'd like to take a few seconds out because we're running almost out of time, but I'd like each of you ladies to tell us what your impact has been with the organizations out there, American Legion, VFW, etc. I know, Mary, we'll start with you. I know you're very active with all of them.
Well, I've always believed that you have to get yourself out there. I feel I'm a veteran advocate, but I'm also a woman's advocate. I want as many women to join the veteran organizations, and actually for the main reason to say, hey, we serve too. So whenever I have the opportunity to belong to an organization, I do. Unfortunately, I'm still one of the few. In many cases, I may be one of 5 women in them, but I'm optimistic that we will see more women join the veteran organizations and be participatory in all the activities that we have out there.
So I've worked with 2 veteran organizations now since I've gotten out. First was the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America in New York City. And now I'm with the New York City Veterans Alliance. So we're doing a lot on behalf of the veterans here in New York City, making sure they're being taken care of. And I am honored to be working with veterans and still my brothers and sisters in another capacity to make sure that we're taking care of each other and making sure that we're...
And I think they're honored to have you working with them.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we know that you've been very active, especially with the education.
On education, absolutely. Actually, I believe Mary's the one who got me to sign into the American Legion.
I did.
Yes.
You did.
I'm so
years
proud of
ago.
myself.
I mean, that might have been 2011, 2012.
She had somebody to sit next to in the meetings.
Yes, actually. I think I was the second woman member of that American Legion. Fortunately, I can't participate as much as I would like to because of working full-time and having moved farther away. But, I'm also IAVA member. I'm an Iraq. I'm an American Legion member. I'm a VFW member. And I worked with the Marine Corps League, AM Vets, DVA. There are a lot of organizations out there. There's a lot of overlap between them, but there's nothing wrong with participating with all of the ones that you're eligible to participate with. And there's a lot of overlap. And so, almost every organization has a VSO.
Yes.
Who can assist you with the VA system.
Yes.
And to swing it back to the GI Bill, because I'm obviously very partial in education, the GI Bill wouldn't be as generous as it is if it weren't for the American Legion and the VFW and other veteran organizations who lobbied to make it as generous as it is. So,
Most definitely.
those organizations now, need our support. I'm still a member. Just got my 5-year pin, actually.
Good deal.
Recently, yeah.
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to say, as I said in the beginning, it shows, ladies, thank you for your service. Paul, thank you for your service. Not to overlook you, but thank everybody for their service. You're watching in honor of, and it's our pleasure to bring these programs to you. Hopefully we can help you get some information. Hopefully we can lead you down the right path, and especially with the educational benefits. And just remember, if you need help, if you got a question, you can contact me here at the studio at 718-727-1414, and I will certainly put you in the right direction. Or you can contact any American Legion unit, any VFW unit. You'll find these units more than happy to help you. And Paul Dietrich is always available.
That's right.
So thank you for watching in honor of. We love you for watching, and we will continue to bring you these programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.